you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, home to the Asian Oprah, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, and a ton more, because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness on this show where there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words, no Kanye talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. And so we have been on now. We just celebrated 11 years. Today, I forgot to change it. Thank you very much, Travon. Is a show podcast number 962. And we are on 581 consecutive weeks. And so I'm so grateful that those people who said that good news, a show about good news, balancing out all the readily available bad news would not last. I'm glad you were wrong. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And if you've missed any of my recent shows, I had a great show with Marion Ross, beloved mom from Happy Days, Mrs. Cunningham. She came back on for the second time, 94, with her fabulous, funny son, Jim Meskimen, who does impressions. He's going to be on that Apple TV series that just came out with O'Dowd. My memory, I need a new hard drive with more disk space. But all of those shows are available on my Show Central, which is YouTube channel. And I just want to invite you to free subscribe there, and you will get an alert every weekday morning that you are about to hear some good news. And today is no exception. It is a very special day today. Happy Juneteenth to everyone. And if you're going, what is Juneteenth, and what are you talking about? Well, I invited someone very special to come and help me put the moose on the table for some things around celebrating this particular day, what it is not, and talk about what it is to have racism in America and what we're doing to try to balance the scales, so to speak. His name is Travon Taylor, Sir Travon Taylor, and we'll talk about that, is an international inspirational speaker, bestselling author, entrepreneur, and coach. Travon was raised in LA, California, and is a 12-year U.S. Marine combat veteran who served 3 tours in Iraq. His passion for helping others achieve their own purpose and greatness has been his obsession. Please welcome to my studio, Sir Travon Taylor. Welcome to the studio, Travon.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Marissa. It's a pleasure to be here for sure.
Absolutely. And I am, we actually have many things now in common. When we first met, we were on stage with John Shin's production of Think and Grow Rich, the world tour. That's how I first met you. And then now we are partners in crime, partners in non-crime, and
absolutely.
Financial education. If we have time, we'll talk about that. With also a new project that is going to be an experience for people to come and do a retreat that is a reconnection to ourselves, body, mind, spirit, soul. Super excited about that. So we just have now, I don't know, the universe wants us to work together. So there's no better time than have you on my show. We've been talking about this for a couple of years, and
Yes.
this was the perfect show for you to come on to, because you do know, both on a professional and personal level,
Mhm.
Juneteenth means. And
Yes.
so that's what we're going to do. But before we do that, I have
Yes.
this discipline that I started about a year ago to have breakfast with my guests and y'all. So if you are streaming, I see the eyeballs rolling in. So that means you can stream and chat on the comments. If you'd like to add your own gratitude, we're taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich, 8 specific things that you are grateful for, which is a practice that I'd like you to adopt first thing in the morning. Instead of doing this, we're going to just center ourselves and think about all the good things in life. And
Mhm.
then on the bottom of the bun is what we like about ourselves, because when we don't have that solid foundation, we tend to look for love in all the wrong places. Who likes me? Literally these days, how many likes am I getting? And that's not what I would like you to focus on. So I'm going to start real quick. I am grateful to have Sir Travon on my show this morning, and that we could make that happen.
Yes. Yes. So
Yes. What are you grateful?
I am grateful to be here with Dr. Marissa on this wonderful Juneteenth day.
I am grateful that we have technology that allows us, is a hashtag COVID silver lining, that made it good and okay to have virtual studios, to be able to have a longer reach, to cut down drive times that don't need to happen. So that's 2 more. So you get 2 more now.
Okay. Well, I am grateful for both of my children. So I'm going to put those 2 together. My son, Travon, and my daughter, Tanae, which my son just graduated from high school with a 4.2 GPA just last week. Thank you. Thank you. So proud of them. So I'm grateful for that.
That's so cool. So I'll jump on and do an extra then too. My
Mhm.
my daughter Chloe and my younger daughter Sarah, both college grads now, and Chloe I think had a 4.3. So I'm going to go and do that
Oh.
competition there.
I love it.
Hey, Leo and 5 planets. I gotta
That's right.
be like, the winner on top and all that. You already know that about me. So
Yeah.
it was funny when we were adjusting the cameras. I'm like, can you make your head the same size as mine? And that's impossible.
Yeah.
But that is the top of the bun. All the gratitudes. Let's go to the bottom of the bun, which is, what do you like about yourself? So I like that I am easy to laugh. It doesn't take much, and laughter is my favorite sound on the planet. So I appreciate that about myself. What about you?
I love the fact that I keep my energy high, always joyful, no matter what's going on. I can always find something positive in any situation. I think that is a wonderful trait to have, and I'm just grateful that I have that.
I appreciate that I have a pretty good sense of like, attracting people energetically who are similar to me, and conversely repelling those who are not.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I appreciate that about myself. Go ahead.
I appreciate the fact that I'm very easy to speak, to talk to. A lot of people find themselves drawn, like same as you, drawn to me as far as, easy just to tell me, anything that's on their mind, and know that they can approach me without judgment. So I really appreciate about myself.
Yay. One more. I appreciate that I am getting better at don't poke the animal.
Mhm.
So sometimes, because I'm such a problem solver, I will stick my problem solving nose into people, places, and things that I really don't need to. And so I'm much better at not my problem, not my, not in my hula hoop. And God bless you. And I hope you figure it out. So unless you're
Right.
paying me, what I think of you is none of my business and none of your business. Last appreciation from Travon.
I appreciate being open-minded and not being in a state where I am just totally closed off to all possibilities. I just believe that there are just a world of possibilities out there, and that I can learn from anything and anyone in any situation at any time. And that allows me to be very innovative and creative and problem solving, just like you are. So.
That's 8 things right there. I'm glad I didn't need to prime you at all. Thank you so much for joining us for breakfast this morning. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA AM 1050, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere, and home to Asian Oprah. Thank you for joining us for breakfast. And what I'm hoping is that for the next 28 days, you continue this discipline, gratitudes in the morning, the appreciations right before you go to bed, so you're not tempted to think about worrying about who done who wrong, what I didn't get done, which is, the sleepless epidemic right now, largely amplified by what we just went through called the pandemic. And people are more worried, more fearful, more concerned about lack and limitation than they ever have been. And so if you don't want to take a pill that has side effects, then I would encourage you to adopt this practice with us. All right, now here we go. Okay. So people are going to be saying happy Juneteenth. And I remember the first time I heard that term, I'm like, what is Juneteenth and why are we happy about Juneteenth? And that is the best reaction. The worst reaction, and this is the thing that I do sometimes, is put the moose on the table, which is my Canadian version. I was born in Canada, of talking about the elephant in the room. And I have unfortunately heard negative reactions to the term Juneteenth, eyeballs rolling. Oh my God, here we go. Let it go. There's no more slavery anymore. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of it? Reparation is not possible. Why would we even want to do that? And this is just I didn't have slaves myself. So all of these negative reactions that I've also heard. So I don't hold those, but I'm known for being real about what is out there and how we can educate and shift all the shiitake BS belief systems that are getting in the way of our ability to be humankind. Emphasis on kind. So with that introduction, Travon, take it away.
Well, there is obviously even today, unfortunately, a systemic racism, that we experience here and there. I don't believe that it is it's a heart issue with a lot of individuals, right? So especially those who have come from, generations of slave owners, things of that nature. So it takes a while to usually get those thoughts and feelings and those beliefs, that BS you were talking about, right? out of generations. So just to kind of go back, a lot of people that don't understand where Juneteenth comes from, it is not necessarily just the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, which was done on January 1st in 1863. But Juneteenth, the day that we're actually celebrating, is June 19th, 1865, which is 2.5 years later, is when the last group of slaves in Galveston, Texas, were actually informed that they were freed. So initially, when it was first signed, by the president, which was Abraham Lincoln at the time, when it was first signed to free the slaves, saying, that all man deserves to be, free. Only the Union states were able to actually enforce it. So now you have only about 500,000 of over 3 million or so slaves that were freed at that time, because all of the other slaves were down in the Confederate States. So as no matter how, if a bill is signed, and put into on paper, if there's no one there to enforce it, then how can you enforce it, right? So it was only enforced in the Union states. So once we actually the Union started winning the war and start taking territory, that's when the slaves started becoming free, because now it can be enforced by the Union. And the very last place that it was done was in Galveston, Texas, June 19th, 1865, when the last group of slaves were told at that point that they were free. And that's when now we celebrate Juneteenth. And that's pretty much the history of Juneteenth.
I love learning new things, and that aspect of this holiday I did not understand. And thank you for that. So it wasn't when it was signed, but it was actually implemented.
Yes.
That we are celebrating, like the completion, the full circle of that whole effort. And props and gratitude to all the politicians. We don't usually give props, but the politicians, the president at the time, right? Abe Lincoln, who drove this and who believed in it and went to war for it. And I think that it's super important, especially around here. It's unfortunate. My bonus parents live in Huntington Beach, and it's a hotbed of, there's Confederate flags that are brazenly being flown now, the whole, I've seen it, I couldn't believe it, a white truck on the freeway had one, and people don't necessarily understand the full implication of that symbol. And I'm hoping, that we are really cognizant. There's nothing to fear in that sense, but there is something to react to in a way. And I'm purposely doing this show. And last year I even spoke at a Juneteenth event, which was kind of weird because it's not my heritage, but I believe so passionately and strongly about the dangers of going backwards into this space where, it's okay to put people down based on the color of their skin, especially when the color of the skin is darker. And that is just not okay. So it's not enough for us to say, oh, that's just, whatever, the minority. It doesn't matter. What you permit, you promote. And so I'm hoping that all of us right now are really, really on alert to address this backward slide that I am seeing when it comes to valuing diversity, especially of the African American, and especially, I did not know that number, 500,000 of the 3 million slaves were in the Union states. The rest, so what is that? What percent is that? 500,000 of 3 million. So that's a small percentage.
Yeah, exactly.
The giant. I know I'm Chinese. I'm supposed to have these numbers right, but I'll work it out later. But that is something. The one fact that I did know that I was just absolutely shocked when I had Akuyo Graham, my satellite sister, on talking about Juneteenth. It was, I think, last year or the year before. I have different guests and friends that come who are familiar with this, that can speak to it both personally and professionally. Um, the reparation at the time for slaves was a mule and some acreage of land. Are you familiar with that one?
Actually, I'm not. No.
Oh, okay, good. Then I've got something on you.
Yes, educate me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up to make sure it's accurate. But there was this effort, right? So we're going to not just free the slaves, but we're going to do some reparation and give each of the slaves this thing that I'm going to look up. And it was not done. So that was, it's bad enough, right? And then boom. But that isn't the worst of it. Guess who got reparation?
Oh, the slave owners. Yes, that I am familiar with.
If that isn't the true adding insult to injury, I don't know what else is. Like, that is really horrific. So tell me what you know about that part.
Wow. Yeah. So that I did know, just because, that because of obviously the money that they had, that they created, through the business of, picking cotton and all this free labor that they were getting, right? They were now concerned economically, they were going to be suffering because they don't have the workers. And so America says, oh, well, we're going to go ahead and, and help you out by giving you these, like you said, these reparations, right? And I mean, and that right there is, like you said before, adding insult to injury. And a lot of people, maybe this is something that you knew, but a lot of people, a lot of the slaves decided they wanted to stay on their plantations because they had nowhere else to go. And mentally, I mean, you can imagine being the fact that that's all you know. You've been in slavery your whole life. You've been taught that you're in chains, that that you belong in chains, should I say, and that this is your master and you have no other way of living. And now all of a sudden they tell you to go free. It's at this point, they were terrified, many of them, because they had no idea how to live it on their own. They had no idea how to, free themselves. And not only that, but there was so much hate still geared towards them, by a lot of the people in the area. What do you do and where do you go and how do you stay safe with your families, and how do you feed them, and what you're just off on your own. So many of them, because they were still slaves mentally, just stayed right where they were and kept doing what they were doing the whole time, for a couple of generations even still, before they actually started breaking off to try to start living on their own and had to just pull what people would call, like, by your own bootstraps, they say, right? And so that is such a crazy thought that goes even into it. To me, it still follows a lot of our culture today that still consistently want to look back and say, you owe me, look, because of, because of what happened with my ancestors and things of that nature. And part of that, I definitely understand, but a lot of it is because they're still mentally caught up in what happened to our, our people many years ago. They can't move forward past it. And when you look at it, all the people who fought for our freedom and fought for our, that suffered so much, yes, they want us to remember what they did and, and how they slowly start bringing us into this place where we can have, the freedoms that we have today is not only just to continue to look back and think about the sacrifice they gave, but to grow from that sacrifice, right? To become successful, to become, the entrepreneurs, that a lot of us have become today, and get out of the mindset of, of slavery and saying that someone's holding us down, but to grow from that and to be successful, and so this is something that we definitely have to hold tight to, because that's what they sacrificed for.
Yes, great point. And I did find it. It is 40 acres and a mule that was promised by Abraham Lincoln. That was never. Never happened.
Right.
So what did happen? I guess there was like some $300 that were given to the slave owners to compensate for the freedom of their slaves. And so I just wanted to make sure that I got the right number there. Now, what you're talking about is, right up my alley. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in studio today, I have Travon Taylor, a relatively new friend, but longtime colleague. And we're doing a bunch of things together, thanks to John Shin. And he's also a veteran, 3 tours in Iraq, which is a thank you for your service and all of that. And he's a dad, and he's an entrepreneur, and doing all kinds of great things, and is a fellow balanced and personal empowerment coach and speaker. And that's why he is on the show today, celebrating Juneteenth with me, because you just brought out one of the most important points with respect to past, present, and future. And for me, it's called balance. So for me, people who are on the one extreme of what's past is past, it doesn't apply right now, we're not slaves, we're not slave owners, we need to, just pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and forget what happened, because, that's not reflective of what's going on today. That's an extreme that does not acknowledge what happened, and that our country was founded on the backs of free slave labor, right? That was not correct. I was actually in Accra in Ghana, where the ships left with the slaves that were imprisoned, dragged, chained into that boat. And I'm getting emotional because being there was so incredibly, like, I could feel I have no idea what that's like. I've never been a slave, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm, saying anything to that. I have no clue what is that like. And if you've never been a slave, even if you're in that lineage, you have no idea exactly what your ancestors went through. But that sign that's at the point of no return, wow, that just totally changed everything for me. As far as, I used to be one of those people that would say, oh, you're overreacting, you're not getting pulled over that much, you have a chip on your shoulder about what happened in the past with slavery, you need to get over it. I am embarrassed to admit that I was part of that mindset, that BS, that belief system, because I didn't understand how those things could apply to the way you thought about yourself now. And now I have been, I'm not going to use the W word, but I have been educated and understand more. And so that extreme view is not useful. The other extreme view, which you brought up now, is I'm a victim of what happened in slavery, and you owe me, and I'm being held down, and I have no power, and I have no individual ability to rise above what happened until I am made whole. Okay. And I will fight for that. And I see always myself having to work 100 times more than a person who was the slave owner. Now that might be true, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
Because it's true. We've shown with research. I'm a diversity consultant. I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I was one of the first ones who delivered diversity, valuing diversity training all over Los Angeles. I got to work with
Right.
LA County and put 50,000 people through a program that I was part of co-creating. I was the
Mhm.
first bank that did that. And I'll tell you that that effort shaped me too, from saying, being angry on behalf of the people who have been hurt, right? Mind, body,
Yeah.
spirit, soul, to wait a minute, there's a balance here. Because if you're going to come into life always thinking that you are behind and you have to fight and nothing is fair, you're not doing yourself a favor either. So,
Right. Right.
so the middle balance ground, which you introduced, which I am absolutely supporting, is where all of us need to move towards if we're going to ever value diversity. So it's a two
Right.
thing.
Absolutely. 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 I'm so glad you brought that up too. So, I mean, that is so true because, I mean, even if you say shrink it down to one individual person's life, right? So, obviously, we're talking about generations of how long it takes something to change, right? And you have generations that look back. I mean, you can skim this down to someone's, life, right? So, they had a hard childhood, they had a hard time in their early years and things of that nature. And now they come to an adulthood, and they come to a place to where they can, there is opportunity in front of them, but they're so busy looking back and saying like, oh, my parents were horrible or whatever. This happened to me when I was a child, blah, blah, blah. So yes, I understand that happened, so you have to always come to a place to where you accept what happened and you take that as not just a testimony, yes, a testimony too, but something to draw strength from, not necessarily to something that will actually make you weaker and disempower you, but empower you to say, you know what, this is I grew from this. I am continuing to grow from this, and that will help someone else to be able to grow from it, right? So one of the things that I say, I mention this actually in my book, is well, actually, I'm going to say this quote first because I saw this actually on a movie, and it says, I'm going to read this verbatim. It says, the only way to keep someone in chains is to first convince them that they are meant to be bound. Right? So the only way to keep someone in chains is to first convince them that they need to be bound, which is pretty much saying, obviously, this is a mental thing, right? So this is a mental state because of what you went through in the past. Now you have grown accustomed to that slavery. Now you've grown accustomed to it, to where you feel now that you've identified with it, to where now this is who you are. Inside, in your own mind, this is who you are. You are the victim. You are the one that's being held back, and no one's here to help you. And so as you continue to walk in that life, and as you continue to walk in that mindset, you can never look forward. You can never grow from it. You can never be able to, to achieve your highest potential of who you really are, because you're identifying with the victim. You're identifying with the slave, with the slavery, and that is the biggest travesty, I believe. That is pretty much the biggest travesty, because it doesn't matter what anyone does around me. I own my power. And one of the biggest things I say in my book is this. It says, the only power that someone has over you is the power you submit to them. Okay. So here's a copy of my book right here, Success Chasing You. And that's pretty much what's it saying, is trying to find your own power and actually who you are, and don't let anything outside of you take your power away from you. And the only way they can actually take your power is if you submit it to them, if you give it to them, because you own your power. But you don't own it when you pass it over to someone else and say, oh, the man is holding me down. I cannot stand that. That is saying, like, right then and there, you're giving your power away. and you're allowing the man to hold you down because you are proclaiming that the man, they say, is holding you down. You know, that is a mental state.
Yeah. Wow. We are definitely putting the moose on the table today here in studio with Travon Taylor. We're celebrating Juneteenth, and we're also talking about how we move past that pain too, not in the way of ignoring it or saying that it didn't happen, but also not marinating in it, which is what I call, pain in life is mandatory. Suffering from it is optional. So what Travon has just put the moose on the table about is no, and what we started is it was wrong. It was not great. It was horrible what happened, right? And it did happen. And at the same time, that if we stay with the pain, we won't find the power. That's been my newest thing. In pain, there is power. So, Travon, you mentioned, what happened to you in childhood. I am the poster child for the 7 out of 10 of us who've had childhood trauma. And the one extreme of not acknowledging that, of not being real about that, of not acknowledging that pain is not useful as well, because that infection festers. But only identifying with that pain, which is the comparable parallel we're making today on the show, is if we continue to see ourselves as victims of slavery, of this particular slavery or any kind of abuse or put down, then we will continue to argue for our own limitations. That's from Abraham Hicks. I love that term. And so at some point, can we all heal into our personal power? Can we use I call it shiitake from our past as fertilizer for our present and future? Because we cannot grow without some level of pain. A butterfly doesn't come out without feeling pain and discomfort from being in that pupa. The chick in the egg is inhaling the toxic fumes from their own poop. So, right. So we all need pain. There's no such thing as a painless life. But if we focus on what the pain is able to do, then we are freed into the power of the pain. Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just like, it's just like going to the gym, right? It's you, when you're weak or whatever the case is, you kind of realize like, oh man, I need to go to the gym, or I'm out of shape, or whatever the case is. And it doesn't always feel good to go to the gym. You're sore, you're hurting, but what comes after that? Whatever you're developing, you start developing these muscles, you start developing tenacity, you start developing, that discipline, and you're getting stronger, you're getting better, your muscles are now able to lift heavier weights that you could not lift before. And that just makes you stronger, right? And another example is the refiner's fire. Okay, so when you want a piece of pure gold, what do they have to do? They have to heat it up and burn all the impurities out, right? So I mean, if the gold actually felt pain, all right, if the gold actually felt pain, then it was like, oh my gosh, this hurts. But when it comes out on the other side, it's pure gold. There's no impurities because it was all burned out by the refiner's fire. Okay. And so us as a people, my culture, we went through the refiner's fire. And in some kind of way, every culture has gone through some kind of refiner's fire, as individuals and as different cultures. Okay. Today we're celebrating Juneteenth. So obviously we're talking about, the 400 years or so of slavery, that the African American has gone through. But we look at that and we say, okay, we can grow from that. We're stronger people now. We're still, fighting these little micro areas of of systemic racism that's still there, but it just empowers me more to want to do more, to want to be more, to want to accomplish more. And you personally know a lot of the things that that I'm working on right now, because I want to be that example of saying, like, yes, we can. Yes, we can grow from this. Yes, we can do more. Yes, we can be successful. And I'm not going to, give my power to anyone else, or say that anyone's holding me down, or say that I'm being held down or held back from anybody, because I have the power to grow. I have the power to rise. And by being that example, I can show all people, of not just my color, but, all over the world, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background is, personally or generationally, you can grow, and you can be better, and you can succeed in whatever it is that you want to do.
And now you know why he's an inspirational, motivational speaker. But I have the privilege of knowing that, he actually walks his talk. This isn't just a stage thing that I don't know in particular the things that you've gone through personally, but you are a great balanced viewer of what the past is, and at the same time, using personal power in a way to balance out the collective pain into, I'm going to use that to launch myself into being not just a role model, but supplying different programs. And one thing that we're both involved in right now is, financial education is not something that is given in schools. We are not taught, what do we do with our money? I wasn't taught when I lost everything in the divorce that, what kind of business designation I should be when I start my corporation and so all of those things, again, if you don't have access to them, you're not going to be successful. You are not going to understand what you need to do. And that's why, that's why both of us are involved in that, not just for ourselves, but, to be a point, we both have licensing. Apparently he got his before mine, but a little bit of competition there, but we're both licensed now for life and health insurance, and going to be for investments too, because this is an area that is not just limited to those who were taught by their parents and the Rockefellers and all of that, who were privy to this stuff that people of Black and brown don't have that system in their education at home. And if you don't go to school for it, then you also are not privy to that. So we're talking about acknowledging what happened in the past, using our pain, right, to alchemize. My middle name in Chinese is Phoenix. Phoenix rising out of the ashes. How appropriate is that? And taking these things that we specifically got as a direct result of the pain we've experienced makes us so geared and tooled to help others who've had similar pain. That's what life's about. Everyone has had some kind of pain and discomfort that we can turn into a tool to help and be a beneficial presence on the planet for other people who have similar points of pain. And that's what life's about. And that's why I'm giving Travon, Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award for the work that he's doing to take what he's had in both ancestral pain and personal pain and turn it into something to shine light and to help others with that pain. And I don't always give that award. So wow. I hope you feel very special on that.
I do.
And we have Orville Nation here from New York. So glad to see you. And everyone. And Inspiration TV is here from Texas, waving his hand. Thank you for joining us. This is my guest, Travon Taylor. don't know where that Martin comes from, but Travon Taylor is my guest here. We're celebrating Juneteenth. We're understanding what it is, what it offers us as an opportunity for all of us as we move through this thing called life, balancing out all the bad with some good. And let's put another moose on the table. So we're talking about taking what is real, not saying it didn't happen, it did happen, and then turning it into an opportunity. And I believe that question, I'm just going to use this as a homework launch pad. If you are still being held back by something that you believe was done to you unfairly, and we all have that, I'm going to ask you this question that made me turn the dime. And this is why Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith is my big brother, is because he helped me with this. And let's see if we can't shift anyone who's ready to stop feeling like a victim. And the question is there anything that was developed as a direct result of that painful incident or that time in your life or slavery or whatever that thing that was oppressing? Was there anything developed in you as a direct result of that pain that you see as something that is helpful or that you enjoy or that you appreciate about yourself?
Wow. Well, I can tell you this. When I was, one of the biggest traumas I guess I went through was all the way from the age of like say 7. So my dad was an alcoholic most of my life when I was a child. There was some abuse going on in my home, and not only that, but I was teased horribly in school, like starting from the 4th grade, and I just had horrible low self-esteem all the way up till I finished high school. And it was actually only after I joined the Marines that my esteem really my self-esteem start rising. So from that, when I look at that time and that experience, and it actually drove me. Having those experiences actually drove me to want to accomplish. I think had I not gone through that pain, had I not suffered the embarrassment of being neglected and isolated, because that's what was really happening a lot through my years. I remember actually a friend of mine some years ago ran into an old high school friend of mine and said like, "Oh, you know Travon Taylor?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." He was like, "Oh, that guy was a what they call an L7 in high school, which is like a square." It's L7. Right, so. And they was like, "Yeah, well, he's the man now." And they laughed about it, and they was like, "Yeah, man, like he's doing big things, And I remember he was one of the main guys that used to tease me that said this, and had I not had that pain, had I not had that, it would not have driven me to, first of all, join the Marines and then start building this, like I'm never going to allow that to happen to me again. And I'm not going to allow that to happen to anyone around me. I'm not going to stand by and watch it. So had I not gone, I'm actually grateful and thankful that I went through that. I'm actually grateful and thankful because I believe that we are all connected. We're just all a big web. And if what the good that I can do for one and help one, it helps generations. It helps those all in my, what I call my sphere of influence, right? So all these people are now benefiting from what I went through when I was a kid, because that helped me grow. And now all these people can now benefit from it, and I'm hoping to reach millions of people like all around the world, right? Because of that pain, that I would not be the person I am today or have accomplished what I did today. So I am grateful for it. We're grateful for everything that we've gone through, good and bad, because it all accumulates to become the person that we are now and develop the strength that we have today, right?
You're the black male Dr. Marissa. I mean, come on. Those of you in my cashew gallery, you know me. You've heard me. Doesn't that sound like me? I mean, that's pretty funny. But I'm going to point out that we're in the last stretch already. I always know when it's a great guest because time flies, literally.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do my final word, and then I let you do your final word. We got an LOL here. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. I have a station ID because we've been rattling on KCAA, home to the Asian Oprah, AM 1050, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere. The station that leaves no listener behind. One of my absolute favorite sayings is an African American saying that says, when there is no enemy within, no one outside can hurt you. Yeah. And if that doesn't summarize what Travon was just talking about, growing up with low self-esteem, growing up with this over sensitivity to people making fun of you. Most of us have had that. 7 out of 10 of us have had that. We have developed a habit to see ourselves in the worst possible way because we believe the BS, the bullshit talkie of those voices that collectively tell us how horrible we are. And whether it's from generations or ancestry or what you suffered in school or what you suffered at home. We all have the opportunity to take that critic and put them in the passenger seat. It is our ability, our power, our choice to stop being our own victim to the BS bullshit talkie that we use now as an excuse to not live a happy, fulfilled, satisfied, incredible, innovative, creative life. That's my final word.
Wow. Yes. And, and on that note, I will say, that's so perfect because I actually have that saying in my book. I actually quoted that saying in my book. So that's so perfect that you said that. Because we have, like you said, a lot of people have this self-talk, and that self-talk screams a lot louder than what anybody else around you says. So it doesn't matter what anyone says around you, what's happening all around you is how you respond to it, right? Is how you accept. You can take those things outside and you can internalize those things, and that's what gives it its power when you internalize it. It's not what the person said about you or not what the person did to you. It's how you take it and internalize it and identify with it. Once you identify with it and accept it, then it becomes part of you and it becomes part of your experience. And that is the man that's holding you down. It's the man and that little voice that's inside of you that's telling you and calling you something that is not true, but it's only true if you accept it and you take it and you internalize it and you make it true for you. And that is the only way that anyone ever has power over you.
And that is it. That's the final word. The mic just dropped twice. Get Travon's book, Success is... I'm ageless, but I still need Success Chasing You. Amazon, everywhere you can get it. What's your website?
Actually, my website is now under construction right now. So we're building a new website based on the new. Yeah.
Just go get the book. You're on social, Travon Taylor. You can find him. That's the wonderful thing about the internet now. You can find people just by putting their names in. So just Google him. Thank you so much for being here, Travon. Thanks for all that you've shared. Thanks for all the agreement that you have with me.
Yes.
And I wish you the best in all of your endeavors now. And I'll be seeing you soon. I think July the 8th is our next thing. If anyone would like to join Travon and I, John's coming on the show to talk again about this. If you want to take care of your finances in a way that will bring you more prosperity and you want money will help you do all the things that you want to do, then please do contact either one of us, and we will see you then. Thank you so much. One more comment from the Cashew Gallery. Let's see. Oh, we get a $5 super sticker, and well said. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Keep it here to take my advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa. It's all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Now go have the best day ever.